snapped to attention. Even on the pixelated webcam image, Parker knew he was looking at a custom-made suit. His parents had both worked for the casino of the Dancing Eagle before they were laid off, and Parker learned at a young age that you can spot the difference between a high roller and wannabe by the way their suits fit. This new guy was on a whole different pay scale than these other dweebs he'd watched for the past 8 hours with their off-the-rack suits that they hadn't even bothered to get tailored. He increased the image size. He was pretty good at reading keystrokes, but he wasn't taking any chances. This guy was his shot. Parker cracked another Red Bull, taking a swig, as he mimicked the man's fingers. E. Shockett. All-Star 925. Parker smiled. Bingo. Now all he had to do was wait for Mr. Shockett to sign off. Then Parker would sign in using his helpfully provided login info, and just like that he would be in a position to expose all the internal memos, all the transactions, and all the dark secrets of the largest bank in the U.S. Parker raised his Red Bull to the computer monitor in a celebratory toast. "You're mine now, bitches." In retrospect, Becky Taylor wished she'd thought through her wardrobe choices a little more carefully. It turned out that seersucker shorts and a yellow polo shirt were not what to wear if you wanted to blend in with 10,000 hackers. When Molly, Becky's sister, had told her that speaking at DEF CON was a big deal, Becky hadn't really believed her. Her sister was prone to exaggeration, and Becky couldn't believe that there were 10,000 people like her sister who existed in the world. And now they were all staring at her and her clothing. She wasn't so much worried about herself as about Jacob, her 4-year-old son, who looked as though he'd just stepped off a magical ferry that went directly between Nantucket Island and the Rio Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was just at that age where he was getting self-conscious and aware that there were differences between people, and that some people cared about those differences. Becky glanced at his face, but he seemed oblivious to the sidelong glances and the arching of the eyebrows that clearly said, "I am cooler than you," from the men in clever t-shirts and impressive beards who swarmed around them. The problem was that they had left straight from playgroup, so even if she had been able to find a utilikilt, the preferred bottom wearer of hackers, it appeared, in Jacob's size, the mortification of showing up at Ginny Thompson's house in such garb would have been far more scarring. Becky focused her eyes forward and gritted her teeth. All she had to do was find track 1, sit through Molly's talk about the security holes she'd discovered in various wireless routers, and then never leave Molly's side. Walking with Molly meant people would think she was someone important, perhaps even an elite hacker herself, not a lost suburban mom. Unfortunately, Becky was a suburban mom, and even more unfortunately, she was lost. That sign said track 4, which she had passed 7 minutes ago, meaning that she was going in circles. Even though they had gotten to the Rio with 15 minutes to spare, she now only had 3 until the talk started. Becky turned left on a hope and a prayer. Seriously, if track 1 wasn't down this hallway, she was getting back in her Prius and driving straight home to Calabasas. Forget being a supportive sister. What got her goat about the whole thing was that she had an excellent sense of direction. She had figured out Cambridge Arms' planned community in 2 seconds, even with its identical houses and poor signage. Hank, her husband, still had to ask her for directions to the Kwan's house. Becky blamed her momentary lapse on Ginny Thompson. Ginny Thompson was a bitch. Becky had brought out photos from her niece's birthday party and casually floated the idea of starting a company that photographed kids' birthday parties. Ginny asked, all incredulous, "You would charge people money to take photos like these?" Becky knew she wasn't the best photographer in the world, but she wasn't the worst, and she'd get better at it. Come to think of it, Ginny had denigrated all of Becky's ideas. Her young adult novel, where the 10-year-old vampire finds out he's been accepted to wizard school, her avocado canning company, her web series based on the antics of playgroup. Ginny never got bored staying at home taking care of her kids, and seemed to consider it a moral failing that other people got antsy. Truth be told,